Hello, everyone. Welcome to the June 14th, 2022 meeting of the Waynesboro Area School District Board of Directors. Those of you who are here, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the state, to the republic, one nation. Okay, we have a couple missing tonight, Ms. Kuzer, so let's do a roll call for attendance. Here. She's not on.
Mrs. Zimmerman is on, but she doesn't have her camera on.
I don't have my camera on. Do I have my mute on as well?
Not anymore.
Okay, so I don't want my camera on, but I would like to, you to be able to hear me. So now you can hear me.
Yep, that's good.
Excellent. I'm here.
Good. Correct. Here.
Here.
Mr. Marvin,
Here.
Sullivan,
Here. Okay, next item is the agenda. Any changes to the agenda, Dr.
Yeah.
Okay, in that case, do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, same thing with the minutes. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any issues with them, anyone? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Superintendent report, Dr. Klein.
Okay, two things. First thing is I will be working with Officer Gordon to put together a kind of a press release or a public release of the types of things that are going on that we have been doing over the past couple of years, plus what we are planning here in the next year to increase and security and safety. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I'm going to ask Mr. Erickson to play a sample of a phone call. If you call into the district, you will not hear adults anymore. You will hear students. And I'm going to ask Mr. Erickson if he would give a sample of what that will sound like when people call in. Go ahead, Nick.
My access timed out. I need to log back in real quick.
That's it.
I know because I can't get my agenda up.
Okay, while we're waiting for that, we do not have any public comment tonight. So we can go on to that. We will hear this when next ready for it. Do we have any board reports? There is an academic committee meeting tomorrow at 10 over at Clayton. Budget did not meet this month. Policy, our chairman's not here. Next Wednesday's policy. Okay, at 1 o'clock. Facilities next. Who's facilities, Mr. Boltzmann?
July 19th.
July 9th. All right, so we're off in June. Okay.
19th.
Okay, and now we have our audio. Go ahead.
Are recorded for safety purposes. Please listen carefully as our menu may have changed. If you know your party's 4-digit extension, please enter it now. To reach the Clayton Avenue Administration Office, please press 6. For the elementary schools, please press 5. For the middle school, please press 4. For the high school, please press 3. If you are unsure of a selection, please press 0 and you will be connected to the operator.
There you have it.
There's more. I think there's more.
Is there more?
Yeah, there's a
Attend
lot.
Back to school night and parent-teacher conferences. Kids do better in school when parents are involved in their academic lives. Find out from your child's teacher the expectations, various programs, and other important information during those meetings.
Parents, set homework expectations. Support your child's school success by reinforcing and extending classroom learning. Expect your child to take their time to do their homework. They will develop a sense of responsibility and a strong work ethic.
Talk to your child about school. Parents get busy with so many things to do, but take time to ask your child about how their day went. Talk about academics, activities, events, upcoming activities, and topics the teacher is planning to start soon. It is really important to talk to your child every day.
Parent,
Hey, thanks, Nick. Yeah, and those are comments that will be on the hold message.
Oh, on the hold messages. Okay. Because
The other-
I actually called in there today
Did
and
you?
heard some of those, but I didn't
Yeah.
hear the public service
You could-
announcements. so-
Yeah, those are, if you could put on hold.
Okay. Okay, all right. So we don't have any other board reports, which is where we were. So we'll move on to spring recognitions and I be Mr. McElwain.
Again, thank you for having me here. I would like to first introduce Mike Eiler from the Owls Club, which he, I don't know if he was on the presentation, but he needs to get out of here a little bit. But again, the community here at Waynesboro has been so generous, not just to athletics, but to everything that's been involved, whether it be anything doing with our schools, and very supportive. And Mike is here as a representative to make a donation directly to our athletic department. And when they went to their board meeting, their approval, they went through each team and allotted a certain amount of money to go to a very specific item or items for that team. So, you know, Mike's here to present a check to, we'll give it right to Mr. Holtzman, but for over $8,000,
Wow.
the check is for $8,263, I believe. Close? I knew it. All right. So I really want to thank Mike and the Owls Club for everything that they do for us here at Waynesboro. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you so much.
Good.
Okay. I got a little speech here for y'all. Hey, you already know who I am. And it's always been our goals at the club to support the local community in multitude of different ways. One of the ways is youth sports, whether it is a winter, spring, summer, or fall sport, indoor, outdoor, large or small team, or even individual competition. The skills learned along with the sportsmanship and camaraderie are valuable lessons that will carry with them the rest of their lives. We asked the athletic director to have the coaches at the school put together a list of items to improve their individual programs. We received the list, and after review, we decided we would contribute to the following teams: the boys and girls soccer, field hockey, golf, cross country, girls basketball, gymnastics, swimming, cheer, baseball, track and field, and volleyball. It is our hope that the programs all have successful seasons. It's my privilege on behalf of all the members of the Owls Club of Wadeport to present this check to you for $8,263.
Very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Again, that's very generous and greatly appreciated. Thanks so much. We finished up the season. Very successful season, considering everything that we've had going on with pandemic, and I do a thing at the end of the year each year called the Quad A Awards. It's called Athletic Academic Achievement Awards, and we go and we highlight the academic achievements that our athletes have achieved over the year. And Dr. McCown was nice enough to give us one day. It was the very last day the seniors are here, so we had everyone involved. We took just over right at a period, the last period of the day, and we recognized every athlete that had a certain GPA, 3.0 or higher, and then we recognized each athlete who had the highest GPA on those teams. Just to give you some quick numbers, of our 18 varsity sports, 17 of those teams in season had a GPA of 3.0 or higher. Of those teams, 10 of those teams had a GPA, a team GPA. They averaged a 3.5 or better for their group during season. And we noticed that is a big trend, that in season, those kids are performing athletically and academically, they're performing at a higher rate. And that's something that, we're proud of. They get held accountable. The coaches are on them, to make sure they're eligible, but just staying on top of them across the board. So, it's a big shout out to our kids that do a great job in there, and then as well as our coaches for following up with that. We had 23 athletes in the high school that were 3-sport athletes. We had, 15 at the middle school that were 3-sport athletes. It's harder to be a 3-sport athlete in the middle school because we don't have as many offerings down there. And then we do have 22 athletes that are going to college to compete. And we have the banner that's put up there outside the athletic office. It's our second highest output that we've had in the past 10 years. We had one year at 25. It's at 22 right now. It might go to 23. It just depends on the last decision. And then we also do name our student athlete female and student athlete male of the year. And that was Ella Lowry and Jaylon Bean, whom they got recognized there. But I just wanted to throw that out to you. So without further ado, we're going to talk to you a little bit about our spring sports. So I'll have our coaches come down. Which groups first? Softball. Oh, we got baseball on the.
Oh.
Baseball is coming
Baseball
up.
first.
So both the baseball and softball teams, they're going to talk about it. But going into the last week of the season, they were both in contention for their championships. They fell short on that last game of the year, but still they're in a position to win it all at the end of the season. Then they did move on to playoffs as well. So if Coach Travis Hardman would come down and talk to a little bit about his baseball team.
Thank you. In 2021, we lost 9 seniors to graduation, including our starting infield. So going into 2022, a lot of people did not know what to expect. And I have to give these boys behind me and the rest of our team a lot of credit. They exceeded a lot of people's expectations. We finished the regular season at 12-6. Like Mr. Mackwalm said, we gave ourselves a chance up to the last week to win the conference championship. We made districts. We lost to Ephrata 5-2 in districts. Ephrata made it to states, won their opening round in states. So I feel like we lost to a high quality opponent. To echo Mr. Mackwalm with academics, I want to talk about the 2 seniors behind me first. Garrett Blunt. Garrett's going to Millersville. He's studying business administration. Next, we have Garrett Beaver. Garrett is majoring in English and secondary education at Salisbury University. He's also planning on playing baseball there. Salisbury University is a very, very successful Division III program. They won the national title in 2021, and they just recently lost in the championship series here this year. Next, I want to recognize Dylan Morgan. Dylan's a junior. He had a very successful season for us at second base, very solid defensively. And we had 3 guys in the starting lineup who hit over 300, and he was one of them. Next, we have a sophomore who's going to be a junior, Mason Gokenauer. Mason, we didn't, being a 10th grader playing varsity, you never know what to expect. We needed him to be basically our number 2 pitcher this year, and he did exactly that. He did an awesome job stepping into that role. Garrett Beaver, of course, was our ace. And the reason these 6 individuals are listed up there and the 4 guys behind me these are your all colonial all-stars. First team, Maddox, he couldn't make it. He had a game tonight. Brooks, he's attending James Madison University. And then, like I mentioned already, Garrett Blunt's going to Millersville. Second team, Garrett Beaver, he finished the season with 8 wins. He was 8-3, which is one of our, he's not the all-time leader, but he's definitely in our leaderboard for 8 wins in a single season. The only reason he didn't get first team, honestly, was because our division was pretty stacked this year with quality pitching. And then, like I mentioned, Dylan Morgan and junior, he also got second team, third team, as you can see on the board, Mason Gokenauer and Dominic Motes, who was also a sophomore who could not make it. So please give these guys a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach, and guys on the team that were able to make it tonight.
All right, next up, if we could have Coach Jimmy Rickett come on down and he'll talk a little bit about his team and the success that they were able to have and getting kids back to states that we haven't been there in a while. So that was a tremendous accomplishment. Coach Rickett.
Hi, everyone. Our season was, to say, a little challenging, as it always is coming in. You never know what we're going to have from season to season. Track and field is one of those sports that, unfortunately, trying to find the right niche for some of these individuals can take half a season, even more than a season for some. The girls overall finished 4-2. The guys finished 3-3. So for us, that was pretty successful in the fact that we've had several losing seasons over the past several years. The progress is definitely happening more and more with the kids. And a lot of that is we're younger. We're having a lot of participants. We had about 110 on the team this year. So we're very young. We're trying to find the right positions, right places for all the individuals. Some of them we kind of came out of the blue with a few. One of the individuals is not here who did make it to districts, Tanyan Shaw in the javelin. Really was a very good surprise for us. His marks at the beginning of the season were 40 to 45 feet below what he threw at the end of the season. So his progression was quite a bit different as the coaching started to click with him and how he started to progress as the season went on. He ended up qualifying somewhere around 16th at 158 feet, I believe it was. So he put himself in a position to where he was in contention to possibly make states. One of those days where somebody has a bad day, he has a good day, and he's at states. He had a good day, nothing spectacular, but he was there. He got the experience, and he's a junior, and he'll be back hopefully again next year. The 3 individuals behind me also are all underclassmen. Like I said, we're young, and with us having underclassmen, that's what we want. It gives us opportunities to work with them more, gives us the opportunity to teach them what all of us as coaches have learned and can try to pass it on to them. What I have here is Salem Dean is our junior, qualified in 3 events: the long jump, triple jump, and the 200 meters. We went through as coaches to try to figure out if any other athlete in Waynesboro has ever done that. To our recognition or recollection, I can't think of any athlete that's qualified in 3 events from Waynesboro for track and field. And I've been doing this for 29 years. That's to his credit. And being back next year, hopefully, get that one step further. The possibility he has in at least the triple jump is, well, it's really unknown yet. He's very new at it, but picked up on it fairly quick this year. So hopefully next year we can get into just that next level. Next, we have Gracie French in the 100 hurdles. She also, underclassman, sophomore. So these guys being young are still learning, maturing physically, and her potential is still unknown as well. I think getting the districts as underclassmen is an acknowledgement, recognition that they can use for their future events and whatever they do in the future. She had a good day at districts, ran close to her personal time. Can't ask for any more than that. We're in a district where track and field is loaded. We've had world championship athletes come out of our areas. So, when you're competing against athletes like that across the district from Harrisburg to Carlisle, Cumberland Valley, it's difficult. So these guys credit getting there is a big accomplishment. And last but not least, True Benshoff, another sophomore. So more time with her in the next couple of years. This young lady not only qualified for districts, but finished second. Her seed going in, I think, was 5th and finished second. So to her credit, she improved her time by quite a bit, got qualified for states, and she ran in a very tough heat. She's laughing about it, but she ran against the state champion in her heat and the preliminaries at states. So, yeah. So, again, a learning lesson, but a learning experience. So all these kids can take that learning experience and improve going down the road. As coaches, we couldn't have been happier having 4 individuals make it to districts in 7 events. True actually qualified in the long jump also. So 7 events is the most we've had at districts in probably over a decade. So the progression for the Waynesboro track and field program is definitely improving. We're young, so I just hope with time we just continue to get better. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, and like I said, our last group will be softball, and again, they were right there in contention for their championship in the last week of the season. So without further ado, Coach McElroy, come on down.
Good evening. So Eric took a little bit of my thunder. Wanted to talk a lot about academics and how these girls perform academically. Every single member of the varsity team was on the honor roll or higher. So all 12 members had a 90 or 80 or above. So that's fantastic. The girls set a priority this year. They had 3 goals. And on paper, they seem pretty simple, but in reality, they're pretty challenging. The first is to have fun, right? Easy, have fun. You're playing softball. It's a long season. It's a hard season. It's a lot of commitment. We'll see if they got there. Second, they wanted to be good teammates. We talk a lot about being together, be good teammates, put team first, which again is very difficult, especially as you get later in the year, your spring sport, school's winding down, you're taking tests. Can you stay a good teammate? And third and foremost, we wanted to make playoffs. Year before, we were 7-13, had 5 seniors. Team didn't really click. This year, whole different group, only 1 senior, a lot of young players, and the team clicked. And like Eric said, we had a chance at the end. We were 12-3 going into the last week of the season. We played 4 very good teams. 3 of the 4 made states. 2 of them made deep runs in the states. So we accomplished all of our goals. We made districts. We lost to Xterra Township. I don't want to share the score. It wasn't very pretty, but they went deep into states as well. I believe they made it to either quarter or semi. So again, we played a really good team. Team stuck together. Even on the bus ride home after they licked their wounds a little bit, they enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. So behind me, I have our all-star performers. So I will start with Miss Carson Moore. Carson was on honor roll with distinction. She is our smarty pants. She had 103.3 classroom average. which was unbelievable. The in season, again, very committed. She was our catcher. I believe you caught every inning of every game. So it's a grueling position. It's hard. We could count on her back there. One of the top batting averages on the team. And like I said, she caught every game. So congratulations. She's a junior as well. Next, we have Michelle Baker, also a junior. She was on honor roll with high honors. Michelle pitched 61 innings, was our workhorse pitcher. Also had one of the best home runs I've ever seen to tie Greencastle that we ultimately won. It was fantastic. Michelle, one of my favorite things about Michelle is she's a workhorse. Like behind the scenes, she's doing things that other girls don't know. She gave me a scouting report on every single game, either whether she was pitching or not. She gave me a scouting report to help the team. So we talk about that connection, that togetherness. She's doing things behind the scenes that people don't see. So congratulations, Michelle. Slayton Fisher couldn't make it tonight. She was on second team. She was also on the honor roll. I was hoping Slayton would be here because I like to embarrass Slayton. She's our one that creates a lot of the shenanigans on the team, keeps the team loose, keeps the team fun. Had a fantastic year. She was on a great run hitting wise. She ended up second on the team in hitting, led the team in doubles, had, I believe, 1 error for the year, plays both outfield and third base. So led the team from a fielding perspective as well. Last, our first team is Miss Abby McElroy. She is a sophomore. She is also on the honor roll with distinction with 100.34 classroom average. She led the team in batting, led the team in RBIs, led the team in hits, was 5-0 as a pitcher, and then also has the challenge of being my daughter, having to deal with that, which is not easy. So next year, again, we're very young. We only had 1 senior that graduated. We've already set a goal for next year, not only to make the districts, but also to host the district playoff game. So we'll hope to see you out there next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Well,
And again, I want to thank the board for everything you do for us. It's with the COVID and everything that's been going on, there's been a national drop in athletics of 30% in interscholastic athletics. We've actually had an uptick in athletics. And you can see from our dedication from our coaches that that plays a lot to it. And the other part that plays a big role is we stayed in school last year and we're able to do our sports and do everything that we're able to do. So I personally thank you for all of our athletes that we have here. Thanks.
So we're going to go ahead and take photos, and I don't believe Mr. Ritter is here, but we do want to recognize Michael. Oh, you got it? Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies, Dr. McCallum, who's also the photographer.
I am a self-proclaimed band nerd, so
Okay.
I am very happy to recognize Michael. I don't think he's here though. But I had the privilege of getting to go to the county band concert because my child was performing. And the way that Franklin County does that is that both the middle school and the high school play together. So it was really exciting to get to see the middle schoolers play as well as the high schoolers play. And the high school band was conducted by a graduate whose name is eluding me right now. So that was exciting. If you don't know much about music, clarinet is a popular instrument. So making county band, district band, and even state band is very, very competitive. And Michael is a multiple instrument musician. He is getting the student section going on the drums, but will be continuing his musical education. I believe he's studying to be a music educator. So very exciting and very happy for Michael. So we will make sure he gets this, and I'll go take pictures.
Thank you, Dr. McCallum.
okay, moving on to the business part of our meeting, and we will start with personnel. Dr. Stern.
Thank you, Mrs. Hare. I'd like to direct your attention to the personnel items listed in the board docs. We have resignation of professional staff, resignation of support staff, reassignment of professional staff, transfer of support staff, appointments of additional summer school staff, change in days. Going back, we also have appointments of support staff, appointments of Act 91 classroom monitors, appointments of substitute support staff. And the final listing is a listing of 3 requests for leaves. Recommendation is to approve as listed.
We have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions for Dr. Sternmeyer? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, tenure, Dr. Stern.
Thank you, Mrs. Harold. Direct your attention to the listing of teachers who have earned tenure in the Waynesbury Area School District. They are listed there, and my recommendation, the board recommendation, is to award tenure to the following people listed.
Motion?
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next item.
Thank you.
Mr. Holtzman, let's talk about the budget.
Sure. Yes, ma'am. This is the proposed final budget. 23 school. That starts, of course, our fiscal year starts on July 1, 30th of the following year. It is a balanced budget. It's $74.4 million rounded revenues and expenditures. It reflects all of the committee and previous board conversations and recommendations on educational opportunities for our students. In many cases, we are continuing to expand those opportunities. So, which is really a positive to do. It is using some ESSER funds, but that's normal. We're supposed to use those funds here over the next 3 years, so you'll continue. It does include a 3.998 tax mill increase in the proposed budget. That is the same number as the previous year, but it's actually a lower percentage because of the base number being a higher number. And we'll talk a little bit more on what that looks like in terms of the effects on the average taxpayer as we go into the presentation. Again, this is not a very long one. We've talked a lot about this, and I probably should take a real quick step back and say that we're having this conversation now about the budget, but we start this back in September and October. The budget committees and the board have been apprised of this budget throughout the entire year. There's been a lot of input from the administrative team, directors in the area. We get a lot of advice and information from PSA, from PASBO, and those will as well as the state. But this is kind of the culmination of that, maybe the last 8 to 9, almost 10 months of work that we've all put into this. So while it's a very short presentation, so to speak here, please just know that there has been goes into the background. I can't remember how many hours of committee meetings alone go through this budget process as we start this every year. But again, it's a great process. This is what we do. The mill rate, as I said, is 3.998. If you look again at the Act 1 limit, the Act 1 limit this year is actually 4.77. So we're about 0.8 of a mil below the actual index that you could go up to as a board. You have that authorization. We years ago had eliminated the per capita tax, and this year with the board approval, we eliminated the occupation tax. And that kind of plays into really the tax effect here as we go on to this budget through here. If you'll notice, even with this proposed budget here, the tax rate would be 105.514. Had the district went all the way to the Act 1 limit every year since they had an Act 1 tax limit out there. And again, we're not going up to those limits. Had we done that, though, we would be almost at 131 mils. So it shows you how much lower we are than what you could have been authorized to do on your own without seeking referendum or exceptions. The average owner occupied home, we take a look at this from the information we received from the county. This is homestead, farmstead data and information. That tax assessment number is a 1961 value. That's why whenever you see your tax bill and it shows the assessed value here in Franklin County, you have to imagine that that's what that house was valued back in 1961. So until something changes mechanically with that process, that's what you'll continue to see. They do use an item called the common level ratio that brings that up to a market value. Right now, if we use the common level ratio, it would tell us the market value of one of those homes is about $174,000, meaning that's about the average owner occupied home in our community. That shows you what their property tax rate would be this year. The year we're just finishing at 1782, and next year at 1831 with the proposal. Now, all things being equal, with that homestead farmstead, we'll talk about that more in the next minute, but that homestead farmstead is actually going up. So it kind of negates some of that tax increase a little bit. So the average owner occupied home would see about a $49 increase on their tax bill. But again, as we mentioned here in the next step, their occupation taxes are also going to go ahead and have a positive effect on here.
You'll notice most of our bills are $15 and $30. So when we give our examples, the reason why we're using 15 and 30 for the most examples is that people who are paying an occupation tax, and this last year would have been the last year of the tax, they're paying it based on the title of their job, not how much they make, not where they work, not their income levels or anything along those lines. It was literally just the title of the job. And it was a very archaic system. We were not allowed to change it. We couldn't go out and rechange the titles and rechange the areas, but we had some great examples. For example, I think EMTs paid a higher rate than a registered nurse is a good example, and many examples of that, just because it was a system that was set up, over 50, almost 60 years ago. So we do have three kind of scenarios here to show you. The first one being that owner occupied home with one working adult. You see what the incremental tax increase would be for them, but then they're also not paying the occupation tax. So they would actually see a net increase of about $34 for this next year. Scenario two, very similar, but with two working adults. And you see their net tax increase would really go up about $19 next year. The last one, again, is a little bit more of an outlier, but we certainly have a lot of examples of that where two working adults and the total of their occupation tax was $60. In their case, their total net tax effect would actually go down next year versus this year. So that's kind of the effect of what would happen with those three hypothetical individuals. And again, the reason why that's not having as much of an effect with that tax bill is because the homestead farmstead went up a little bit. We got some more of those gambling tax proceeds this year, as well as the reduction, elimination of the occupation tax. So in summary, again, we're asking for approval that would really increase student opportunities, continues to meet all of our negotiations requirements and salary requirements. And again, the board's been very, very proactive in many ways, trying to bring salaries up. You can move so fast and so quickly, but you do have some tax limitations in there. But you do recognize that salaries have had to go up to be competitive in the market. And I think you've really worked hard in that direction. And you'll notice the LECI is the Local Effort Capacity Index. What that means is it's the state's perspective of whether or not you're taxing your community fairly. And one is considered a fair tax. So if you were at one, the state, not Eric or anyone else, would say that you were taxing your community fairly. We used to be at 0.76, and what that does is that actually does affect how much state funding you receive. So if that's a lower number than one, it affects how much state money they're going to give you as well, because they feel that you're not taxing your community enough. And so ergo, they don't feel that they should give you more state funding or as much.
Can you define that again? All I got was local.
Yeah,
I mean, I
sure.
understand what it is, but I just
Sure.
wanted to know what the acronym was.
Local Effort Capacity Index. So basically, it's a way the state measures whether it looks at your community's wealth, both from real estate and from income, and compares that to how much taxes they're paying, if that makes sense. So anyway, but over the last couple of years, we've raised that up to 0.97. So we're almost pretty much at where we would say that neutral position is, so to speak, from a state taxation perspective. One thing that does hold us back a little bit is that we have the least amount of property that we can tax per student in Franklin County. That's just unfortunate. We have a lot of great businesses and great community here, but unfortunately, we just don't have the same level of wealth as what some of those other districts have. And we also have the highest market value aid ratio. That's another measurement of economic wealth. We are by far, we have the highest in Franklin County, unfortunately. So again, that does have an effect on the district. The final one I would always throw out there is the basic ed funding. We get less money than the average school district does in Pennsylvania for basic ed funding. That's the primary funding model from the state. Ergo, our spending is also far less than the average school district. We are typically in the bottom 1% of spending per student. When you look at current spending per student, we take out the financing piece because that goes up and down based on bond refinancing. So it's harder to compare that from an apples to orange perspective, or it becomes an apple and orange perspective. But basic ed funding, to put it another way, our spending is in the bottom 1%. When you look at the 2020-21 data that was available out there, we were spending about $13,000 per student. There were more than 90 school districts in the state out of 500 that are spending $20,000 or more per student. A couple of them are almost at $30,000 when you look at that compared to our $13,000. And yet the state is not, unfortunately, with their model of funding, not going to give us a tremendous amount of additional funding to offset those changes. It's very unfortunate. They have a process they call Level Up also. Those funds typically go to places like Scranton and Reading, who are already spending more money. In fact, we looked at Pittsburgh, again, one of those districts that you would think would be underfunded, and they were spending, I think, right around It was either 24 or $26,000 per student for that same year that we were spending 13. So, and certainly there's a cost of living factor a little bit, but that is double. I mean, that's a tremendous difference. So again, in summary, it's a balanced budget. It does include a tax increase, but it is below the Act 1 index this year.
Thank you, Mr. Holtzman. Before we get into any discussion, do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second,
Okay, and again, I want to reiterate what you were talking about, Mr. Holtzman, in that there have been many, many discussions. I talked to a constituent this week who was talking about, well, you know, not a whole lot of discussion. I said, well, there is a whole lot of discussion, but a lot of it is in the committee meeting. So a lot of these things, we're not just, and I happen to be on the budget committee. We have 3 members of the budget committee. Now we have 4 members, but we don't, unless you come to the meeting, a lot of that would not be new. So I'm not sure what people are going to add or ask now, but just wanted to make that clear. There's a lot of discussions and many, 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 many meetings. So before we vote then, discussion, comments from anyone? How about you, Ms. Zimmerman, as chair of the budget committee? Anything to throw in here?
actually, I think that Mr. Holtzman's presentation was very well done and very easily understood. And I realize I am on the budget committee, you know, and so I've been through this, but I think even for the person who is not real familiar with budgeting, et cetera, I think the presentation was very clear. Hopefully I'm corrected in that.
Okay, so that was not a, was that on the screen when you were doing that? Okay, can they have access to that?
It is public information. It is, sure.
It's on the website? Okay.
It is.
Okay, it's on the agenda if they went and so they could see that. Okay, good.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? Okay, all right, all those in favor of approving this final budget for the upcoming school year, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Presentation.
But that's what I was, yeah, that's what I was just asking, because I didn't think it was here, but I think it would be valid. For anybody who's interested, I think Mr. Holtzman did a great job of summarizing and explaining some of the aspects of what we're looking at when we created it.
Good to show you.
Yeah, the homeowners, right.
And
I mean,
right, to your point, right, it's been publicly available out there as part of the agenda, which was a great idea to put that out there. So I appreciate your help with that.
And I had a question too. The committee meetings are where on the website? They're posted the dates.
That would probably be on
Dr.
the
Sarhan, you
events
know the answer to
calendar.
that?
Yeah, I believe it's under school board of directors and there's meetings.
They're on the main site's calendar. Okay, so if anybody's interested in attending any of the committee meetings, that's where you can find the times, dates. And they are, to my knowledge, with few exceptions, always at the Clayton Avenue boardroom. Okay, moving on to homestead resolution. That you, Mr. Holtzman, again?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
So this is the homestead farmstead exclusion resolution. This is something we do every year. At least we vote on it every year and we passed it every year since they've had this. I'm not aware of any districts that do not approve it because effectively, if you don't approve it, then you would be, I guess, turning away state money and you would be increasing taxes a little bit further if you turned it down. So that's just the situation that we're in. But nonetheless, this is homestead farmstead. We're receiving about $922,000. That number, as I said earlier in the conversation, did go up almost by $200,000. First time it has ever went up. So you think going all the way back, I guess, to 2008 range, somewhere along those lines. First time it's ever increased. So we take those funds. We take a little bit of the what they call the Sterling Act tax credit, which was $90 this year. And then we almost always have a slight tiny bit of undistributed money. And the reason why we always have a little bit of undistributed money is because when you take those funds and you spread them out over 7,700 tax parcels, you run down to a number where You can't make it an even number when you look at it from a tax assessment perspective. So, you know, if we moved everybody by $1 more, we'd be giving away more money than we received. So what we do every year is we always have a little bit undistributed. We take that undistributed amount and we add it to the next year. And so that we're not saving it anywhere. We just go ahead and add it into the pie the next year. And so again, we have always some small amount of undistributed funds again, year by year, but by adding them back into the total amount that's available, we don't create basically a side fund, which is the right way to do it. So that way, and the state recognizes that. They actually have a formula set up, and they recognize when you get down to a certain number below that threshold, and it really works out to below 50 cents, which makes sense. And you can't round it to $1, then you go ahead and roll it over to the next year. So we're asking for your approval. There's the benefits from this are about, let me see here if I get this, it's almost $120. So this reduces the tax bill by about $120. That will be a benefit of about 7,700 people in our community, 77 households in our community.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
I second that.
Okay, okay. Any questions for Mr. Holtzman? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, next item. And I just want to clarify, this is the second reading of these policies, is that correct?
That's
Okay,
correct.
even though it states, I assume that what's written on the policies that was already presented as a first reading. Okay, because on the policies, it says first reading.
Yeah, no, I don't think any of these went back to the. Right.
Okay, so there's just the status says first, but this is for the second. Okay, just want to clarify that. Okay, policies. Who's talking about that? Dr. Klein.
Yeah, you have eight policies before you. As Mrs. Harold said, they've been before you before at a previous board meeting. These have been through a process through individuals and also through the policy committee. So they've been well vetted, and they do change a lot. We get a lot of contact from PSBA and they recommend certain changes. But this is where we're at with these 8 policies at this time, and we're asking for your approval.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Second.
Questions on any of these for Dr. Klein?
Just the clarification, how many of these are state mandated and how many of this are these are just policies are good to have?
I think we've gotten all these from PSBA.
Okay.
However, we kind of put our own wording some area, customize it.
Okay.
Our need.
But to his question, none of these are mandated. Like we don't
No.
have to have a dating violence policy. We just
Yeah.
choose.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know. Title IX might
Yeah,
actually
I think,
require.
That one.
yeah, I
picked
think
the
I
right
might
one.
want to oh geez. I believe most of them are tied into some type of state, you don't want to call it a mandate, compliance check.
Okay.
So, and a lot of them are Title IX, in light of the changes that were made. So you'll see that for like dating violence, it talks about we requiring some curricular information regarding dating violence at the senior high school and being incorporated in the health curriculum. So.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the Siemens agreement, Mr. Holtzman, is that you?
Yes, ma'am, it is. Thank you. So we're asking for approval. We do this agreement every year, although we're only asking for 1 year. In some previous years, we've done multiple year requests. We're only asking for 1 year this year because our maintenance director is trying to come up with a plan to address maybe a potential way of doing this differently for 23-24. But he needs 1 more year to kind of work through that process a little bit as we've been switching our software a little bit here with Siemens. So we're asking for approval of this. This basically takes care of building control maintenance and equipment here in this building.
Okay, motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Questions for Mr. Holtzman? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Probation program, where that would be.
I'll take that. This is one I think we have approved every year. This 22-23 school year. School-based program, probation program agreement. We've had that, I think, I don't know how many years, but forever.
Forever.
So we're asking for approval.
Okay, motion,
Move to approve.
Second.
all right, questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, on to the school, individual school POs from here, Mr. Boltzmann.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. What you're seeing here is 22-23 purchase order requests. These are a part of the budget process. You're only seeing the elementary buildings right now. We're going to come back to you on the 28th with middle school, high school, some other departments as well. Some of those have put those requests in, and then there's a couple groups that have one or two that they need to still apply and put in. But you're seeing these here, and I think we put these into the Friday folders as well previously. The process with most of these are building budget related. So the process is the teachers put the requests in through their building administration. The administration reviews it. They bring that over to Dr. Sterner-Hein, Ms. Truax and I, and we review this as well as with Mr. Erickson. We go through all those requests and then we come back and bring them in as part of the budgeting process.
Okay, motion,
Move to approve.
Second.
questions? Do you have any items you want to talk about for those four? Okay, if not, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right,
Thank you.
our favorite item, school calendars, Dr. Sterner-Hein.
Thank you, Mrs. Harold.
Anytime.
We have to make one last change to the 2021-22 school year in light of the fact that we made June 1st an Act 80 day. So the recommendation is to change the last day of school from May 31st to June 1st as an Act 80 day. The other is the exact same calendar that we approved. However, with the admin team, we went through and as we've had in the past, the opportunity to add early dismissal days for professional development. And we also added one Act 80 day in March. So those are the only two changes to both calendars. Recommendation is to approve as listed.
Motion,
Move to approve.
Dr. Royer, second. Mr. Marvin, okay. Questions? This before? Small changes. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Overnight trip to Carnegie Hall. That's Dr. Sterner-Hein, I believe.
Thank you, Mrs. Harold. So we're delighted that the Chamber Choir has been invited to perform at Carnegie Hall. There is the initial request. There's also a proposal there, but when I went and clicked on it, I recognized it's a dated proposal. So I guess the understanding is whether or not it's formally approved, and then we would seek out additional quotes. Okay, so essentially what we're looking at is the request from the district perspective from Mr. Venzel, and then it gives you a preliminary quote, which again is somewhat dated. I imagine there's going to be some changes moving forward, but we are delighted that our learners have been re-invited to perform at Carnegie.
Second.
Questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. On to business items. Mr. Holtzman.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We have for the board's discussion and action, we have the general fund and the cafeteria fund checks as well as requisitions for those areas. We also have a real estate tax exoneration. That was a tax appeal that had worked its way through the Court of Common Pleas process for many years. I think starting back in 2014, I believe, 2015. So that has finally worked its way through. And then we have some additional occupation and per capita tax exonerations from J.V. Harris.
Motion,
Move to approve.
Second.
questions? Mr. Holtzman. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
On to information items, Clayton cabinet comments. For me. How about board member comments?
I had to stop in Fair.
Oh, good.
Fairview was
Mhm.
very nice.
Mhm.
Very well put together. Talked to like a lot of people that I graduated with, like their kids go to Fairview now and they all enjoyed it. And I think, what did they say? 5,000 and some dollars that they raised. Yeah, it was a good day.
And that
Nice.
was for the playground equipment.
For
Right.
playground equipment.
Anybody else?
I was there also. Very well done.
And we haven't met since graduation. No, so graduation, unfortunately, of course, we had to come inside because of the weather, but seemed like it went very well. Had a lot of board members there participating this year, which is great. Seemed like all went well. Again, congratulations to our graduates. Yes.
I spoke to Marvin on the way in. Not sure how it happens, does what, but he offered a free ball clinic, elementary and middle school students last week.
Mhm.
Say in the mornings.
Mhm.
Not sure how that happened. March.
Mhm.
There, on the first day and camp opportunity. Everybody, all of our families,
Right.
extra camp fees in the summer. So maybe that can be encouraged or.
Yeah, I think I know the field hockey team has done that a couple years in the past. So there are some teams that do that with either no charge or minimal charge, but you're right. That's great. You got to get them started young and involved in that.
Mrs. Harold, I guess Dr. Roy reminded me in reference to camp, literacy math camp began today on the elementary level. I believe we had 147 learners. And this is the first time that we have been able to offer summer school, I believe, since maybe 2010. We're also providing transportation. And it's as a result of the ESSER's funding. So we're hosting it at Fairview. However, it has learners from all 4 of our elementary schools. So big thank you to the elementary principals for coordinating this, and hopefully it's a great learning experience for our students, and way to start the summer.
Good to know. Good to know. Okay, we don't have anything else?
Actually, I'll make one comment about graduation. This is Linda Zimmerman. Our graduation was the 3rd high school graduation I attended that week. And I want to compliment our high school staff, especially for making it student-centered. This was definitely very well done and student-centered, which is how I think a high school graduation should be run. So very well done. Thank you.
Good to know. Okay, if there's nothing else, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we will be going to executive session for personnel and not returning. Okay, thank you, everybody.